I'd like to call the meeting to order. Misty, would you call the roll, please?
Deborah Johnston. Here. Bill Lucan.
Here.
Larry Pratt.
Here.
Craig Romey.
Present.
Linda Varvel.
Here.
Melanie Wilson.
Here.
J.R. Huddleston.
Here.
David Burris.
Here.
Thank you.
Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, as always, council, if you have a conflict of interest, please let the rest of the council know before you vote. Need a motion to approve an amended agenda. We have two amendments. The first one is on current claims, and Misty will keep me on track if I mix this up. The new amount for current claims will be $28,594.41. And that comes from, if you look on page 2 of your current claims. At the bottom of it, the Lightspeed payment has been removed. And after I go through both of these, if Misty wants to provide more detail about why that happened. And, on accounts payable, the new amount for that is $73,400.65. And that comes from page 4 of your accounts payable. It's another Lightspeed payment. That $500 payment has been removed. So current claims will change to $28,594.41. Accounts payable will change to $73,400.65. Anything you'd like to add, Misty?
I would just say that, if you remember when we discussed Lightspeed as the new processing software up at the golf course, we were going to have a reduced rate in the winter months for the monthly fee. And after paying the bills a couple claim batches ago, I asked PJ why it was still $500 for November and December because we were closed, and he was following up on it. He got amended invoices after we had paid them and submitted those for payment at the lower rate of $250. And so we are currently sitting on a credit balance after this January $250 of another $250 because we already paid those, so.
Thanks for keeping track of all that.
I make a motion to approve an amended agenda, including the current claims, changing that to $28,594.41, and accounts payable claims to $73,400.65.
Second.
Linda?
Linda, thank you.
You seconded?
Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Motion to approve the minutes from the January 3rd meeting.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from the January 3rd council meeting.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Motion to approve the bills in between.
Make a motion to approve bills in between for $189,927.80. Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Motion to approve the current claims and the accounts payable.
Make a motion to approve the current claims, $28,594.41, and 2022 accounts payable claims, $73,400.65.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Brings us to communications from the public. Is there anyone that would like to address the council? All right, we'll move on. council updates. We have an update from Andrea Powers with Shedco.
Good evening, Mayor, Councilman. Can you hear me okay?
No,
No.
Can't hear you.
got to get right up to it and speak loud.
Is this enough? Yes?
Better.
Better?
Folks in the audience, can you hear? All right, thumbs up and nodding.
Thank you. I guess the most exciting piece of news is that our Shedco banquet is this Friday night. 6 p.m. is happy hour, and 7 p.m. is dinner, which will be prime rib. And our guest speaker is Dan Ainsley, who is the city administrator for Sturgis. And he's very enjoyable to listen to. So everyone is welcome. And Melanie, I'm sorry, I'm just now, I tried to find your address, and I did email you at your city email, but I don't know, maybe it didn't get through to you.
Thank you.
Other items, we received our 2023 preliminary housing study, and it recommends 48 to 52 market rate rental houses, 18 to 22 independent senior living units, 70 to 90 owner-occupied housing units be built in the next 5 years, between 23 and 27, with a few 3 to 4 bedroom subsidized housing units, which we do not currently have in town, and a few more memory care units. That adds up to 190 new units for Hot Springs. Housing projects. Shedco began recruiting potential developers to Fall River County in the fall of 2021. In early 22, we met with Dream Design and provided a tour of Building 1 up at the State Vet's home. Dream Design is currently on board with a remodel and has drawn up a design plan for a 26-unit apartment complex, which will include 2 studio apartments, 15 one-bedroom units, and 10 two-bedroom units, for a total remodel investment of $3,520,000.
Wow.
They are waiting for what is now called Senate Bill 41 to pass through Congress. If you remember last year, there was a proposal for $200 million in infrastructure funds to be spread 70% in cities of less than 50,000 and the other 30 for Sioux Falls and Rapid City. It got bogged down between GOED and South Dakota Housing Authority, and 50 million of it was allocated but not dispersed. And they're reconciling the whole 200 million as we speak. It's passed through Congress and is now on the floor of the Senate, and we're hoping that it will be a done deal by the end of the week. And so they're sitting on that to figure out how to make their various projects go forward. Infrastructure First project, which is also called the CIP program. This was just announced last week. I don't know a whole lot about it. I passed along information to Misty and Bob. It's a capital improvement program planning grant. GOED is partnering with ISG to develop a 5-year capital improvement plan for 16 communities of less than 5,000 residents. The plan will include potential construction schedules, estimated costs, and a budget-oriented savings plan, as well as potential funding streams for each of the projects that are designated by the city. I want to emphasize that ISG will not be designating the city's priority projects. Those will be as per what is in the comprehensive plan. But the CIP, the capital improvement plan, will dovetail with the comprehensive plan, so it's where you want to go and how you will get there financially. The grant, as always in South Dakota, is a 50-50 matching grant. The municipality will contribute $15,000 and GOED will contribute $15,000. They did have some questions on the webinar that I viewed about smaller towns and if they would actually use the entire 30,000. They're not sure, but they're asking communities to plan for that. There's also the possibility of being chosen as one of the 16 communities and delaying the process because they're going to do one at a time. So if you're towards the end of the 16, it might not even occur until 2024. Housing Trust Fund. Everything's about housing these days. The Black Hills Community Foundation grant is going to make a congressionally directed funding request for $20 million to create a housing trust fund across the Black Hills to assist economic development organizations in helping developers with funding options. I'm going to be submitting a letter of support on behalf of SHEDCO. We haven't had a board meeting about it yet, but I have asked for permission to do that. And so I will be asking various city administrators and city councilmen to sign on to that letter of support. It would allow SHEDCO to be able to access some funding to help a developer with that last 10% to get through a housing project. And if we would need to apply to the housing fund, but if we had individuals within the community who chose to contribute to the housing fund, that would always be specifically for Hot Springs. Does that make sense? Okay. We are working with Prairie Transit to provide us with potential visitor transportation, a driver, and insurance to deliver a summer rotation to the downtown retail area for the summer months of 2023. I'm just at the beginning of that right now. Prairie Transit has said they can provide us with those things. The sticking point's always been the insurance, which they're happy to do, and they've come up with a reasonable price for us. So I will keep you informed as I make progress with that. The Beyond Big Fund was the fund that I had looked at to pay for infrastructure for the EV charging stations. That will cycle back around twice in the year 23. I had started completing the grant application, and I'm ready to finish it whenever the city is ready for me to, and that window of grant opportunity opens. It's our understanding at this point that we can get the EV charging stations through a rebate program with BHE, so that would ultimately be no cost to us, but the real cost is in the infrastructure. And the ceiling on this grant is $100,000. The Western Dakota Tech Satellite Nursing Program is on track to begin offering classes in the spring of 2024. They've made progress with the state home, come to an agreement on leases and the equipment that they need, so they're making good progress on that. And that's pretty much everything. That's big. Any questions? One other thing, I forgot. In the governor's State of the State address, she talked extensively about the child care issues across the state, and nobody's really sure what she's looking at for potential programming for that, but it is bubbling up now with early learner associations across the state, as well as the Economic Development Professionals Organization. So I would expect to see something coming down the pike in terms of a proposal to make it easier to get child care facilities in smaller communities.
When you say facilities, are you talking about them actually constructing a facility?
You know, I really doubt that, Dave. It's typically never about the construction aspect of
I
it.
was going to be surprised if you said yes.
I'm thinking they're going to look at ways to make it easier for individuals to get that state certification that allows them to provide services outside the home. I know a few individuals who would like to move from their in-home care services to an out, to the state certification, but it takes time to get that and money, and they just don't have those resources to do that right now. So I'm expecting it to be something along those lines.
Would there be in that package, you think, something to help them as far as if they have a in-home business?
That's hard to say.
Thank you.
I couldn't make a projection about that.
We'll put you on the spot again, Andrea. Given that our city ordinance for family daycare essentially mirrors the same requirements for the state that the state has, would it be beneficial for a family daycare provider that is not licensed with the state to make sure that they comply with our city ordinance and have that documentation to then show that they are, in essence, meeting all the state requirements by fulfilling our city requirements?
So you're saying that maybe the city requirements would be a substitute for the state requirements?
They're not a substitute, but we've mirrored them. We've not added or taken away from what the state requirements are, but we've just asked that family daycare providers do those things that they would have to for state licensing, but we do not require state licensing.
Okay. My guess is that this, whatever programming the state comes up with, will probably require that state licensure. Is that sort of the gold standard?
So if they would go ahead and fulfill our local requirements, they would be there for the state licensing
Yes,
requirements.
if what you're saying is so, that it's a mirror, that all they would need to do is fill out the paperwork.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and I put that out there to encourage any of the family daycare providers to get the city license, fulfill the requirements, and if you choose to be state licensed, you should be there.
Yeah, yeah. Anything else?
As to the SB 41 legislation that's passing as we speak, do you have any clue when, after it's all approved, how quickly they'll be? Is this something we're looking at this year?
Everything
By
I'm
summer?
hearing is that they want to get it out the door as fast as they can after the Senate approves it. There is one significant change that I'm very happy about, and that is that the old breakdown was a third from the city, a third from the developer, a third from the state. Now it's a third from the state, and where the other 2/3 comes from, it doesn't matter. That's good.
Because that would be $1 million for a third of it, right?
Any other questions for Andrea? I have some.
Uh-oh.
You had
Like
mentioned
it's the big
the
bucks.
2023 housing study. You have the preliminary. Have they said when they think they're going to be done with the final? And do you expect any changes, or is it just dotting the i's and crossing the t's?
He didn't really expect any changes, and just like all the housing studies that got pushed through in the last year, they're, I believe, inaccurate in terms of population influx. An interesting piece for me was that between 20 and 21, the average house increased by just over $20,000 in value and resale cost. So if you extrapolated that over 2 more years, that would be a $60,000 increase. And we all know that's happening, so it's not news.
Will we receive that? And then when will we receive the invoice for that study? Because we appropriated contingency in 2022 for that and did not pay that bill yet. So we'll either have to reappropriate funds in 2023 for it, or get that invoice within the next 10, 15 days.
I'll let
We
him
haven't
know.
seen the
I would
study.
expect, I told him 3 days ago it looked good, with the caveat that the numbers for population were incorrect. So I will let him know, Steve, and please push that out to you guys.
Thank you.
Do you know how Fall River has increased census by numbers?
No. And he's got various projections. They're not just the census, there's also American Communities and GIS, and they're all about the same. And so they're probably all off by about the same. What that is, we don't know.
Because census decreased, right, for both?
Yes, it did. And we know that can't be right.
Right?
Building 1 at the State Home, I'm glad that you're able to talk about it now, that, it's far enough down the road that you can share the, information with council. In the past, there's always been the question, what has Shedco done for us lately, kind of thing. And you've talked often about the fact that you're constantly working on things, but until something actually comes together, you can't share it. So just because there isn't, a huge announcement every month, every whatever, it doesn't mean Shedco isn't doing good stuff for us. What Dream Design has put together with Building 1 up there is huge. Waiting on what happens with Senate Bill 41. And in my mind, it's just put a pause to their work, but their work isn't dependent on what happens with
No,
Senate
I
Bill
don't
41.
believe so. Especially this is my personal opinion, especially with our project, because it really doesn't require much more in the way of infrastructure. Much of it's there. And I'm speaking out of school. Obviously, I'm not an engineer. The heating and cooling systems will have to be refurbished, but that's not really infrastructure related as we think of it, as the city would think of it.
Okay. The CIP plan that you talked about, it's on the agenda for council's consideration tonight, and it does require a letter of support from Shedco. If council approves that, Shedco's on board?
Yes, and we're happy to do that. And that CIP application, it's a first come, first serve, unless they get so many that they need to order them. So it's kind of if you approve it, you need to have it ready to push the button as soon as the grant window comes open. And you can fill it out prior. It's sitting there ready, the template.
Pretty simple.
Yeah,
The application
yeah.
is pretty simple.
GOED is noted for pretty simple applications. And I did tell Bob that if you decide to go with it, and there are opportunities for us to find funding to help cover the $15,000 of the city cost, I'll be glad to write those and at no charge, because this is a GOED program, and that's my job. If it comes out of the Governor's Office of Economic Development, it is my obligation to do that work.
Yeah. Just in case I forget to mention it when we're actually discussing it, the applications open up January 25th, next Wednesday.
Okay.
Depending on what the council decides to do, that will give us time to prepare the application.
And you'll let me
and have
know
it
I
ready to
need a
go.
letter. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay. And again, back to Senate Bill 41, as I understand that process, it's made it through the Senate without much of a hitch.
Through the House. It's on the floor of the Senate right now.
Thought it made it through the Senate, and it's going in front of the House because they were expecting maybe a little more pushback or changes at the House.
Do I have it backwards?
I believe so.
You
That's why
might-
it's,
Passed on the Senate floor on the 13th.
yeah, that's why it's Senate Bill 41.
You're right. I'm sorry. Those congressmen. Yeah. So, enough conversation was had about it over the past year that I think they're ready to be done with it. And it was proposed early on in the hopes that, as they get towards the end of the session, people get a little more argumentative. So getting it through at the very beginning was the goal.
Yeah. And this is figuring out what to do with the funds that they approved last year that they just didn't approve the spending.
And it looks like it's going to stay with South Dakota Housing Authority,
Okay. All
which
right.
will mean that that any housing infrastructure that goes in will need to be for housing that's up to 100. It's valued at up to 120% of the median income, which everything we need falls within that.
All right. Council, any other questions?
Do you have an electronic version of your update you can email me?
I have this.
Or the paper one would be
Yes.
fine, just to make
I
sure that all
I
your
checked for
numbers-
typos this time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you
Thanks,
for all
Thank you.
all your hard work.
Can we get a copy of that?
Ms. T, would you forward copies to the council, please?
Sure.
Okay, that takes us to personnel actions. Can I get a motion to approve personnel actions A through E?
Make a motion to approve personnel actions A through E.
Second.
All right.
First, second was Dave Burris.
Yes,
Thank you.
I beat you.
I believe that's Chief Norton sitting out there.
It is.
Just wanted to have you available in case council has any questions or you'd like to share anything about your new hire you're hoping they'll approve.
Yeah, so Sherelle Hughes, she was born, or a local gal here, lived here for several years in her youth, moved away, worked in corrections in the state of North Dakota, worked corrections in Arizona. She's got about 10, 11 years of corrections experience. I asked for 86% top of scale. She's not state certified officer or anything like that. She doesn't have any true law enforcement experience. However, her corrections experience, I believe there's a lot of that translates into the law enforcement aspect. Her control tactics, verbal judo, de-escalation, all that good stuff. She's not completely oblivious to this line of work, so that's why I asked for 86% top scale. We're really excited about her. Held a couple different interviews with her, brought her in a second time, talked to her. She did really well. Our most recent hire, Matthew Maxfield, he's going to LET in March to June. I have a second slot available for Sherelle to attend as well at the same time as him. So theoretically, 2 people in a car going to and from Pierre for 13 weeks. We don't have to do that 2 separate times. So if we can get her on board and get her sent at the same time, it would be beneficial for everybody, I think.
We get training request forms and reimbursement training forms signed. I'm not sure we landed who's responsible for those.
Yeah, that's with the police department. The other thing that I've fallen down on this is the council gave the approval that any hires like this would be contingent on Sherelle having signed the academy.
Absolutely.
She's done that? Or
She will, I mean,
we'll do that if they approve her?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Maxfield too, right?
Yep. First question I ask them when they apply is if they're willing to stay and do the contract, and both of them have been completely on board with it, so.
And we have to get it signed before they go.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, before they leave, yep. They'll be
So
fine.
the process that we put in place was that the signing of that document will be part of their new employee.
Yep.
But Maxfield, we didn't have that because we didn't know when he was going to go, and that's one of the problems with the policy that we implemented is not always right at new hire.
Right,
So-
but the agreement to sign the document doesn't have any dates of when they're going to school, just that they will
We'll
be.
add that to the new hire checklist, but the last communication I have, I don't think Maxfield signed it at his hire. And you
I'll
said
do
to
it, I'll do it
wait
for
on
both of them tomorrow morning. She'll be in at 8 o'clock if everything goes well here, and we'll get her signed.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll have to prepare that new hire packet, so we'll make sure if you don't bring her with it, that we include it.
Okay.
And then we'll make sure Maxfield has his too.
So is that going to put us really short on police officers, a lot of overtime?
Should. You're saying minimize the overtime?
Yeah, are we going to be doing a lot of overtime because of it? Sending them both at the same time?
I don't think so. Because, well, I mean, we're currently running with 5 as we are right now because Matt just got off of FTO, so he's, I mean, as of Saturday, he worked his first shift by himself. So we've gained him. We'll gain him for the next 3 months or 2.5 months till March, and then him and Sherelle will go. I don't foresee Sherelle ever being by herself before she goes to LET. So I don't foresee an increase in overtime. I think our coverage will be about the same as it is right now. But we're looking at June 2nd having 8 fully sworn, fully certified officers too. So by the time summer starts, we'll be ready to rock and roll with full department, everybody certified.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Has Sherelle done ride-alongs and gotten acquainted with, or reacquainted with the community?
I mean, as far as, she hasn't done any ride-alongs with our department, but, you know, we've had her in. She's met everybody on the department but one, I think. I mean, she mends well, she's outgoing, she's got the good person, you know, the right personality. She's from here, so integration into the community is not a big deal. She lives here, so it'll be beneficial to have somebody who's from here, living here, working here.
And on corrections, was that a Supermax by any chance?
The one in Arizona, I believe so, and she was actually a command lieutenant. So she was the brass down there. She climbed the chain up there and had a lot of responsibilities. So we're excited to have her here.
Is her mother the nurse here in town that you,
Cynthia? Yeah, I believe so.
Yes.
Roger Exum's stepdaughter? Used to be.
And you had mentioned that if council approves this hire, you're fully staffed now?
Yes,
You
sir.
will be fully staffed?
Yep. Eight officers.
Mission accomplished.
Yes,
Cool.
sir.
Yay.
That's huge.
What
That is
kind of
huge.
What kind of equipment do you think she's gonna need to?
I've already got a belt. I've already got a fully equipped belt for her, ready to rock and roll. I did submit a request for some boots and, you know, new shirt, new pants, and stuff like that. Stuff that fits her. And as far as equipment, duty gear, we've got a vest that I think is new. I mean, it's not expired or anything. I think it'll fit. So we're looking at a couple shirts, a couple pairs of pants, and some boots, and ready to go.
Cheap moving.
Yeah. So
In our vehicle status, we're,
we've got one that one that we bought with the insurance funds. That'll be done any day.
okay.
And then we're waiting on the Charger swap deal, whatever's going on with that. I don't really know the details of that one right now, but everybody will have a car. You know, as far as she's concerned, she'll be riding around with somebody, so we won't need a vehicle for her yet. And once we get that Charger debacle all situated, we'll have a vehicle for everybody.
We do have a yellow Ford pickup over there.
Just throw a magnet on the side.
Yeah, there's still that recreation van.
That'd be a way to save money on lawns when you see it coming.
For sure.
Well, good job. Thanks for
Thank
all
you.
you've done.
Thank
so
you.
far.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ross.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion passes. On to ordinances. Ordinance item A is second reading of ordinance 1246.
Make a motion to approve second reading of ordinance 1246, an ordinance revising Title 7, Traffic Code, adding Chapter 72, wayfinding.
Discussion? Misty, would you call the roll, please?
Bill Lukens,
Yes.
Deborah Johnston,
Yes.
J.R. Huddleston,
Yes.
Larry Pratt,
Yes.
Craig Romy,
Yes.
Melanie Wilson.
Yes.
Linda Varvel,
Yes.
David Burris.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, the motion passes. On to resolution. Resolution 2023-6, a resolution amending Resolution 2023-5.
I make a motion for Resolution 2023-6, a resolution amending Resolution 2023-5, appointing Ward 1 Alderman Craig Romy to the Custer Fall River Regional Waste Management District Board of Commissioners.
Second. Right here, second.
I think Linda beat you. Deborah, it's kind of hard to tell who, but I heard them first. Sorry, Larry.
Just trying to show full support.
It's really good to see your enthusiasm
You
in
have
the
a
new year.
conflict of interest, Larry.
You had meetings this morning, didn't you?
Yes.
And Misty, would you just remind them of why the resolution was amended?
There were several places in the proposed resolution that meets the format required by the Custer Fall River Regional Waste Management District where the name Larry Pratt was mentioned. And because I had way too much going on, I missed one of those. So when I sent them the resolution appointing Craig, they caught it and asked us to amend the resolution to correct in the, I believe, second paragraph. It still said Larry Pratt in one of the areas, so
Well, I kind of thought we'd trade off.
I can translate what Misty said.
I'm good, I'm good.
It was in the in the third paragraph where Larry's name still was shown, so we just corrected that.
Thank you. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes.
Abstain. Can't vote for myself.
You volunteered, now you...
Almost changed my mind about volunteering.
All right,
I was asked, I wasn't volunteering.
I stand corrected. New business item A, possible motion discussion to approve the offer for Wade Evans.
I make a motion to approve the offer from Wade Evans to purchase the pine, cedar, firewood pile at the Southern Hills Golf Course for $550.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. New business item B, a possible motion discussion to approve and authorize the Public Works engineer.
I'll make a motion to approve and authorize Public Works Engineer Tracy Bastian to sign the retainer agreement with Napoli Sholnick PLLC to be registered in the South Dakota PFAS Cost Recovery Program at no cost as recommended by the South Dakota Association of Rural Water Systems, SDARWS, and the National Rural Water Association, NRWA.
Second.
Discussion?
Do we have a clear explanation of this?
Yeah, what,
So, my understanding of this, what I highlighted in it, is that we are authorizing their attorneys to prosecute any legal claim for negligence against any and all parties, individuals, or corporations that are found to be liable under the law for injuries and or property damages suffered by us and or our members arising out of the contamination of water supplies. Our water is tested every year. We've done fine by that, but if there was any contamination, these folks would step in and provide legal
Defense?
legal advice for us. And as the motion said, it's advised that we do this by the South Dakota Association of Rural Water Systems and the National Rural Water Association. And in looking at it, there aren't any upfront costs. Their fees come out of any amounts that they would recover as part of this, their representation of us.
Tracy did mention that it's a 3-year program and our sampling wouldn't start till about May of 2025 for the PFAS substances.
25, you said?
Yes.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. New business item C, possible motion and discussion to approve the policies and procedures.
I make a motion to approve the policies and procedures for brush pile burning.
Second.
Okay, I put this in front of you. This is a procedure that was originally put together by John Gregory, I believe, along with when Mayor Cotty was still in office, to identify the process that we're going to follow when we burn the brush pile. And it was a little mixed up in that there wasn't a section that was specific to a checklist on what we're going to do. And when we talked about it at Public Works, our street department superintendent felt it was important to actually have a checklist that would be passed around as we complete each one of the steps. Our solid waste recovery facility site, disposal facility site, requires us to burn during daylight hours. So Dave and I were able to talk with Jim Wendt from DANR and talk with them about the process, specifically our lighting the brush pile in the morning, very early morning hours, so that we had calm weather and the smoke actually went straight up rather than down the canyon, and that the pile would mostly be burned by the time people got up and they were out driving around. Our main focus is Fall River Health, that we don't contaminate the filters, the pre-filters that they use for their medical systems. And after we explained the process to DANR, there's a email there that I asked them to send so you folks can see that they are okay with us using our discretion when we light that pile on fire. So this is just dividing the policy up a little bit about what the process is, how we'll determine the date of the burn, who we'll contact, and then actually creating a checklist that can be used every year. The first thing that has to be done would be to notify the council that we're going to do that. For this year, we already have a burn permit that is good through March 31st. So this council meeting can serve as the notice to you folks that that's when we intend to burn, is sometime between now and then, March 31st, dependent on the guidelines in here. So as we go through that process, the notification protocol, we have talked before about who we notify that the burn is going to be happening and all of the other steps. And I felt it was important to have this process as a policy. How many years down the road it's used, that will certainly be dependent on future councils and future mayors, but it at least puts something in place that could be referenced and used from year to year. That's the reason it's in front of you. Do you have any questions?
On the first page, under 5C, should that be edited or deleted? Since we can now burn during the early morning hours, but they aren't necessarily daylight.
Yeah, it still needs to be there, I believe, Deborah, but the email would be attached to our burn permit. Okay. So we see where they're giving us permission to use our discretion as to when we burn. All right. He said specifically that they weren't going to amend the permit itself. They would just give us that
okay.
authority via email. Any other questions?
Yeah, if the one says, if necessary, the police will make recommendations to close impacted streets due to marginal visibility, with the city administrator making the final decision. What if he can't make the final decision? It needs to be done right then. I mean, we've got it written down like this, but I'm just, just wondering. I mean, can they make a command decision and then run with it?
Could the police?
Yes.
I would, in the same sense that the president of the council can sign in my absence, I would say that I would sign in the city administrator's absence, or the president of the council could sign in the city administrator's absence. We have that chain available to us.
Yeah, as far as closing roads, is that your question?
Yes.
Yeah, per South Dakota codified law and per our own city ordinances, I believe the police have the power to, they are really the only ones that have the power to control traffic anyway. So yes, they can make that decision independently and have the authority to do that based on transient conditions, so they can do that.
So we wouldn't need the city administrator to a certain point?
No,
okay.
If the smoke banked down and closed off a road that caused a hazard, they could do it immediately without the city administrator signing off on it.
All right, thank you.
Is that who signs on all these signature lines? Because it doesn't designate who on the 11 signature lines on these 2 pages. Is it the city administrator who signs off on these, or is this going to be circulated and signed off on by other folks? It just says signature. It looks to me like it could be just one person and then, but I'm not sure.
I didn't want to lock it into a single individual, to Larry's point. If that individual isn't available, then who would sign off on it? But I think as you look at the checklist, it is the city administrator who really is key in all of this. He's the one that's, working with our Facebook and our website to put the notice on there. He's the one that's notifying the police department when it's available. He's the person that notifies DANR. He's on site looking at all those things.
So he's gonna have to get up at 3 in the morning to be up.
You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised.
Coffee and donuts for ourselves.
Donuts and coffee, man, I'm good, doesn't matter what time it is.
I mean, we have time. We've got till March 31st. We're getting some favorable weather for burning. But if you want specific names here, tell me what you want here and I'll get it changed.
No, that's fine, as long as we know who we expect it.
I would highly recommend that we don't nail it down to just a few. We should have some options in case of a problem.
Yep, I agree.
Right.
Chris, I know.
Any other questions?
I have one. So from the website where we get the permit, I read their procedures and it recommends for our large piles 6 inches of snow. Do you guys foresee getting everything on this checklist done in the time it snows before we don't have 6 inches of snow?
Our procedure has always been that when you have snow on the ground, early morning, our area, we have the best of a calm morning. We can burn, but prior to burning, we walk it. If anybody doesn't feel that we have any dry spots that could run off on us, we always have the wagons, the trucks full of water. Pretty much we have double, if not triple, safety measures set up prior to ever igniting. And we pretty much look at the weather for up to 30 days, and we give ourselves usually about 3 to 4 good chances on the best of our choice for the weather that's coming. But prior to igniting, we do a walk around with the whole crew, go through everything all over again. Not having actual snow on the ground, but moisture on the ground, it has always been to our benefit to have water, the water trucks ready, sitting there, everybody notified through this process. It just gives us, like I said, double and often triple safety. So, yeah, we can't depend on burning only when you have 6 inches. It's not feasible. Because you can have some really dry snow and end up with 4 inches, and really it's not going to be any good. And as dry as it's been here lately, yeah, I like having the double and the triple safety procedures.
I guess more what I was getting at was, it asks for council approval and, how can you get all of that done so far in advance with only 2 meetings a month to know, are the conditions going to be right on this day to get it approved?
You never know. That's something that's never going to be nailed down. None of us have control over that. That's why I'm saying look at 30 days worth of weather. We'll pick out 4 of those days that really come to our favor, and we'll try those. And if it's not at its best, then we just walk away.
So the
But
requirement
as far as the council goes, that is
Mandatory.
pretty much an easy thing. That's not really a problem there.
Ariel's correct in the question that she's asking. When you look at that burn permit, it doesn't say 5.5 inches, it doesn't say 4, it doesn't say 3. It says you must have 6 inches of snow on the ground. DNR is aware of that. They're aware of our process. The last inspection we had, they didn't raise that particular question with us. Did you assure there was 6 inches of snow on the ground? So Ariel's question is accurate, it's spot on, it's a fair question. We haven't done that and they haven't called us on it. And after going through this, they're aware of our process. If you, let's see, where's it at?
It actually says how impressed they are with our process.
Our office is very satisfied with the city's policies and procedures for brush pile burning. The city should be commended for developing such a comprehensive policy to ensure that open burning at the Hot Springs restricted use site is conducted safely and efficiently. But are we doing it to the letter of the burn permits? No.
And typically, the snow cover is there for slash piles in remote areas where you're not going to have a water truck to manage the radiant heat that's going to dry out anything and cause an uncontrolled fire. And that's why when Dave talks about the safeguards in place, so you can either have nature's installed safeguards or you can have, if you will, engineered safeguards, and that's what Dave's plan and rely on is more implemented and engineered safeguards instead of relying on nature, because you can't. If we were out in the county surrounded by trees and grass, I don't think we would be allowed to burn a pile this size, and we wouldn't attempt it. But good question, Eric.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. New business item D, possible motion and discussion to approve entering into a professional services agreement.
I have a question on that.
I'll make a motion to approve entering into a professional services agreement with Insight Partners to conduct the management training workshop March 2023 to be funded by future contingency transfer.
Second.
Discussion.
Excuse me. This is quite expensive. Is there any way Jeff could go back, come back and teach people what it's all about instead of sending everybody to it?
I think the price is
Actually, the price is only $3,500, which is,
37.
I'm 37, excuse me, which is, thank you, leave it to Misty, 3,700, which is actually a bargain for a 2-day training session.
Is that with motel and everything? Travel?
That's a package price.
Are they coming
coming
down
here?
here? They're
I
coming.
was able to negotiate it with Insight to come down here, teach a 2-day, 8-hour-a-day course, a workshop, basic management 101, kind of the things that we you as a council have talked about us doing, trying to take care of some lack of education or training in the past and taking gaps. 37 is a heck of a deal. In answer to your question, yes, I could do it, and I used to do it. But it's very time consuming, and it would take me away. I'd love, actually, I take that back. It wouldn't be a good idea for me to do it. I could do it, but it's not a good idea because, in fact, I won't even attend this. And the reason I won't attend it is because managers need to feel that they can speak with non-attribution and feel freely to discuss issues that, frankly, they probably wouldn't discuss in front of me or, would feel awkward doing that. So, but this is $3,700 is a heck of a deal. I was expecting a $20,000 bill, so quite frankly, I was impressed.
But it's coming out contingency, and I see down below another one.
You cut training budgets, except in the police department during our budget talks.
Yeah.
This was not budgeted.
This was not budgeted for.
And if you approve both contingencies, you're at 54% of your contingency used in the first 3 weeks of January.
And then we have another one down lower too. So I don't know, it's just something I was thinking of, so.
No, I mean, I would love to teach it, frankly. Do nothing more than just go teach these classes.
That would be called a train the trainer, and we don't have, we would love to have you do it, but it's not conducive for you to do it at
I
all.
think it's not a good use of my time, quite frankly, and it is difficult to train your own staff, it really is.
Is it something we can budget for in our next budget cycle? Or,
And I'm open for that, I just want to be sure that I address council's guidance and agreement that we are concurrence, that we need to do something. And now what I have discussed, what I would do is this, I would recommend that we do this under contingency for this year, but then I would like to do a quarterly training into next year's budget, and we'll get that into the budget. And we can do a quarterly training for, you know, $600-700, and then coming down here and doing a one-day deal, so. Anyway.
did we discuss the proposed dates with department heads for availability? I did try to schedule a training. I think some of you were still on council when we had SDSU Extension come down for quite a bit less and do some training to council and leadership, department heads of the city. And it was difficult to try to get everybody to be available.
It is difficult, and I will tell you this, whatever we do with this is mandatory. This is a non-negotiable thing for department heads and some supervisors. So this company came to me recommended out of, they've done programs for Pierre and I think also for Aberdeen. So they've done small municipal training workshops, and they were impressed with them. So that's how I ended up with this company.
And I know we talked about the problems we have, but I kind of thought we was gonna do something in-house about it.
Yeah,
I think we need to keep it on the professional level, and out-of-house is the way to go on that. We've been trying to work in-house for years, and we need out-of-house input, and like I said, it keeps it on a professional level. It just is the best way to approach the whole leadership training way to go.
I don't understand why our biggest managing leader wouldn't be present.
why I wouldn't be leader there?
No, as he said, it's a good thing because all of the since he's the
manager,
the great manager, then all the supervisors need to be able to feel comfortable voicing their concerns and questions to this professional who, doesn't have any.
Who's impartial?
Yeah, an impartial person.
But she's training, not managing our team, right? She is training management?
Right.
Yeah, but when the war stories, and that's where the real teaching comes in, is when you start sharing real life circumstances. We want to be able to, well, my boss, who happens to be the city administrator, he did this, that, and the other, and that's not going to come out if he's sitting there. So
Right.
I understand why Jeff doesn't want to be there.
I'd like to think that I train every day. So these guys these folks need a different perspective, as well as what I already said.
So do you think they're gonna open up about each other sitting in the same meeting?
I don't have an answer for you, Craig, I don't know.
This will set a baseline for a professional level of conduct.
Does this price exclude you from being there, Jeff?
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand.
Does this price exclude you from being there?
No, this price is for as many folks as I want to send. I'm just buying them for the 2 days. No, and I don't.
The question is not suggesting I don't agree with your
Yeah.
reasoning for not being there. If council was insistent that you be there, would it change the price? And you're
Yeah,
saying
there's no limit on the number. Well, I'm sure there's a limit on the numbers, but realistically, I've told them 20 to 25, which is more than we have, frankly. But they're not hung up on the numbers. They're more concerned about and I'm more concerned with the subject matter. I do think that I would, as a general rule, when I do these, I would attend the first half hour and probably the last half hour or so, but I would not want to be there for the whole thing.
Since this wasn't a budget item, where do we get the 3,700 from?
Contingency.
The proposal was
Contingency.
to use contingency, but you will have, if you approve the next contingency item, you will have used 54% of your contingency, which is typically reserved for emergency expenses
For the whole
already
year.
in the first 3 weeks of the year.
Right. And that was my question.
Yeah, there's no easy answer to that one. We definitely did not budget for this in '23. We will in '24 as well as some other things, but. yeah,
But
we've got-
isn't contingency for emergencies? It ain't just for whatever we want to use
It's
it
for
for.
unbudgeted items that crop up.
Usually for emergencies.
No.
I think that's up to council to decide what they want to use it for.
Yeah, they've said before.
Let me ask you a question, Jeff, and I apologize for not having this discussion with you
No, that's fine.
prior to the meeting.
No, that's fine.
I do believe that training like this will address a lot of the issues that we've addressed not only in council but in executive session and some of the frustrations. I mean, South Dakota Municipal League provides training for council members, and, you know, whether it's budget training or the one-day training, and so we're provided training, so we ought to be providing training for our supervisors. I think I also see in one of the areas that we need to gird up our training is really implementation of our policies. I don't know that our folks fully understand policy implementation. And if I'm correct in that assumption, would it, and I'm asking the question, I'm not trying to play a hand here, which would be better to do first? The training that's before us here, or spend some time this year really helping them understand what the implementation of our policies, and then budget the training next year to do the supervisory training? I think both are needed. Could we get a bigger bang for the buck sequencing one for the other?
And if you're asking for my opinion is we need both, and I need to be doing, well, we need to be doing additional training in addition to this. But I think what we've discussed a few times is that we have some folks who have really no background whatsoever in management. They work their way up and they're in a good position and all that. So some of the basic management skills I think are still necessary. Now, could we wait a year? Absolutely. I'm not hung up on it. And had it been $20,000, I'd have said, let's wait. You know, do I want it? And I guess the other thing too is we can try and absorb this out of, well, it wasn't unbudgeted, never mind.
We have online training opportunities
We do.
available through the people we already pay, the South Dakota Public Insurance Alliance and Workers' Comp Fund, that has management-specific training that's free of charge for our managers. If we've identified specific managers who are in need of specific trainings, there is a free option already available to the city. And I say free, but a service we already pay for that has online, do-at-your-own pace, can be reviewed by management after it's done, training that you might not be aware of.
I'm aware of some of it, and it is important, and I have referred a lot of employees to that. You can't undervalue this kind of training, to be honest with you. So it's, but again, do we have to do it this year? No. Would it be easier? Yeah, I'd like to do it this year, but I understand. So I wish I'd known this in July, but, or at least been a little further along. But I wasn't.
Another problem I see with this year is department heads and everything. With 5 people in the police department, we're gonna have a chief and a captain there taking this program. At least
would be the
3
intent,
police
yeah.
officers that usually probably don't work days, having to cover for them.
Look, it's not easy for anybody. We're picking a year when the streets
I know,
guys are busy,
I know.
7 days a week. So there's no good time to do it. There's, we can procrastinate, that's fine. We can not. It's up to council how you want to go with it. I want to put it out as an offering. If you're interested in doing it this year, I think the price is, like I said, had it been more, I wouldn't pursue it. but also understand.
Jeff, I'd like to use myself as an example. When I hired on the company that I had, we had policies and procedures. And I took those home with me, and we had a couple of days of class with it as far as getting the job secured. Now, in my world, policy and procedure just isn't getting hired and reading it and saying, okay, groovy, cool. It's an ongoing thing. If going through and taking Bill and going on Bill's premises here, if going back over policies and procedures for right now is the best thing to do, I know for myself and even our my immediate supervisor will remind us in emails, this is in your policy, this is in your procedure, and then also reminding us of the repercussions of what can happen if we don't follow those policies and procedures. So I think training is a great idea. I think maybe at a later time it might even be better, but I think for right now, till we get to that point, I think it's a good idea to remind our department heads of the policies, procedures, and the repercussions from those. That's just my input.
No, I agree, and let me point out too, there's two kinds of training, really, and when it comes to management. There are policy-specific trainings that, you know, procurement, HR stuff, basic stuff. You know, prevention of sexual harassment, those are basic HR type trainings, and that's fine, they're absolutely critical and they're ongoing. This is not, these are more, and you saw the brochure, the printed material, it's essentially much more abstract. You know,
right.
It's motivational, it's, you know, well, anyway, I won't go into it, but anyway, it's more of an abstract, you know, touchy-feely training than anything else, I suppose.
Right.
For lack of a better word.
Have we ever used any of the training that is offered by what we're already paying for?
I have referred employees to that online training. I have not done it myself, so I don't know how good it is. I can't really evaluate it.
Did we make that mandatory like you're saying this is gonna be?
Absolutely.
I mean, the online training.
Yeah.
Have you gotten any feedback from those it was assigned to?
Yeah. They weren't real impressed. but
Lori talks real highly of the trainings that are
The
available.
safety,
Used
yeah.
to assign
The
them
safety trainings are good, but that's the,
from the same,
yeah, and that's the same thing. Those are the mundane, day-to-day, safety, HR, yada, yada, all that stuff, which we've all done. And anybody who's ex-federal did 50 a year, every year for forever, you know, so you know the deal. But this is more of an abstract, motivational type thing to get folks involved, to understand, and to give them an opportunity to talk about problems in a non-attributional environment so that they're not, you know, having to explain things in front of me, or I may be the problem, who knows. But anyway, I recognize that we're a little out of, okay, anyway.
It gets, this type of training gets everyone on the same playing field and everyone functioning more cohesively, which I think is something that's really needed.
It's probably needed, but I don't see it happening. I know most of the guys that work for the city, and I don't think they'll get together and start talking about the other guy. I'm sorry, but that's just the way I feel.
Not the primary thing, but I think that, you know, the training environment works better without, you know, the bosses in the room, to be honest.
And if you have good trainers, I mean, they will bring stuff out of people that they didn't think that they would be willing to do or to think about. So, I mean, if the trainers are very good, which it sounds like, you know, this is what they do. So, I think everyone will be surprised how much they do get out of a training like this.
All right, any other questions? Ms. Tu, would you call the roll, please?
Craig Romey,
No.
Linda Varvel,
No.
Melanie Wilson,
No.
Larry Pratt,
No.
Bill Lukens,
Yes.
Dave Burris,
No.
J.R. Huddleston,
Yes.
Deborah Johnston.
Yes.
Motion fails. 3 yeses,
5 noes? All right, so the motion didn't pass.
I would say that we need to review what is offered to us that we are, as Misty said, already paying for. And possibly make this every 6 months. Everybody kind of has a refresher and see if that does anything for us. I mean, I'll admit that we need some training. I don't think we've actually put too much effort into putting a program that's going to work for us. What we have offered to us as of right.
All right, on to new business item E, a possible motion discussion to approve and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement.
I make a motion to approve and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement to terminate agreement number 717468, Community Access Road Grant between South Dakota DOT, Department of Transportation, and the city. And that's it.
Second.
Discussion. So this is the formal notification to DOT that we are not going to move forward with the project up around the school. Council had already made the decision that...
Which is sad, because we got the grant, and it should remain a top priority of the city as our availability to fund it improves.
So keep that thought as we get into a different item. Actually, as we get into the next one.
Can I say something about this?
Yep, we're still in the discussion.
We didn't use the grant. Is it gonna make it hard for us to get this again for that road construction?
From what would you like me to share? Do you have the information that Paula shared with Tracy?
I don't.
They understand the reason for it, and at this time, then those funds may be reallocated to other communities that can use it. It shouldn't impact our ability to request grant funding for this project or another in the future.
Because I agree, this needs done really bad.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
But we can't afford it right now. I agree with that too, so.
All right. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. On to new business item, F. Possible motion discussion to apply for the South Dakota Governor's Office of Economic Development Infrastructure First Project Matching Grant.
I make a motion to discuss to apply for the South Dakota Governor's Office of Economic Development Infrastructure First Project Matching Grant. This is a 50-50 matching grant, and the city's portion would be $15,000 to be funded by future contingency transfer.
Second.
Discussion.
Can the money come from any place else in contingency? I mean, and I know that's what it's for, and I think we should do this, but I'd like to have the money. I just hate taking money out of contingency unless we really have to.
Well, the money in all the other departments has been budgeted already. So if you're going to take it out of there, or you take it out of
Future supplemental appropriation out of your cash balance, unassigned cash balance.
So I put that in there as a discussion item, but Misty had just mentioned, Craig agrees that, this is a project that we need to get taken care of. The reason that I put this on this council agenda, when Andrea was talking to us, the first date that people can apply for this particular grant is next Wednesday, January 25th. And they're only approving 16 communities for this grant. So in looking at it, in my mind, this is the first time, I don't know whether the city's ever taken advantage of anything like this to look at all of the infrastructure within the city, our public facilities, our water system, our wastewater, our storm sewer, our streets, sidewalks, infrastructure, parks and recreation. We have done the city's done a couple of studies with parks and recreation. They've done one with the golf course. That was, I think...
2014?
Yeah, that one came in at like $18,000 for that particular one. And there's a study that was done that's titled Butler Park Improvement, but it was more than just Butler Park. So the city has looked at specific areas within the community. And those are important areas also, but they don't speak to that infrastructure.
We are in-
That we all know is failing. So hiring ISG, the state has hired ISG. ISG are the folks that designed our suspended sidewalk for us. They're the folks that we hired to do our wayfinding. So they are familiar with our community. They're becoming more familiar with the community. In talking with Misty, we all agree that we can spend $15,000 on this study, and where are we going to come up with the money to get it done? But at least it identifies the needs. They take a look at everything and they say, okay, here's where we see, your most urgent need. And the other thing that they talk about in here is actually identifying the funding sources for us for these projects. If council says, okay, this is one we want to go with, we also know what the potential funding sources are for that. So that's the reason that I put this in front of you. I think it's something we need to do. Is now a good time to do it? No.
When is?
Yeah, when is? You'll at least have the plan available to you if we're approved for the grant. That can be used for future councils to help decide what projects should be picked off the list next and where's the potential funding for that. So I cut Misty off. I didn't mean to do that.
Mayor Nelson, I just want to mention you are in the middle of a contract for $33,000, and I'm sorry I can't remember the name of the company, but for a state water plan. So you have already approved an agreement for a plan for the water infrastructure improvements that our community needs, and that's at $33,000. We're in the middle of that right now. We paid about half, and we haven't gotten our plan yet. So he mentioned the other plans that we've already done and paid for. I wanted to make sure that you were aware that we are, well, and hopefully you remember that you approved that plan and a change order to that plan, and it's around $33,000.
I agree that these plans needed, but first time I was on the council, and I hate saying that but we did a parks plan and nothing's ever done with it. And we paid quite a chunk of money on that.
Well, those were long-term. This is a 5-year. It needs to be reviewed every year, and after 5 years.
I agree with that, but I'm talking about these plans that the city goes forth with, and some of them's never done, and we pay thousands of dollars to have it, and nothing gets done after you do it.
The golf course plan, the superintendent out there has picked off a lot of the items off of that plan, and you can see the changes in the course, the enhancements in the course from doing that. So to your point, that particular one, everything hasn't been implemented, but there are a number of things that he's been picking off the plan specifically. So this particular grant talks about that. ISG will work closely with current community partners and engineers to review existing studies and plans for inclusion in the community infrastructure program.
Does this set us up, like this would be an adjunct to our comprehensive plan? And so would this set us up to be better placed for grants to be approved for us? Because we have this plan done? Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
I do, and I think that it would. I think it would demonstrate that the city, has identified what our problem areas are, how we're looking to address those issues. We would certainly be more ready to respond to those with something like this in place than something coming up and going, well, how much do we really need? Tracy has talked about the miles of streets that we have available to it, or that that need repair. So that's what I see this plan doing, is identifying all of that and the costs that are associated with it.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because it is just a 5-year capital improvement plan. And knowing it's competitive, there's only 16 communities that will be awarded this. Knowing what we know about our current financial situation and the plans and projects we've already identified as priority, including the Minnetonka Bridge, the streets around the schools, most grants have matching funds that the city needs to contribute to be eligible for. That's why we can't get the grant that we already got approved for the road improvements around the school, because we can't meet that. We might be taking away from a community that has the funds and doesn't have as many projects on the horizon in the next 5 years. And what are we going to be able to do? when we know we have these other projects that are within this 5 years that we already have prioritized and need to come up with funding for.
Yeah, I guess I appreciate you saying that, Misty, because I guess when I go through my mental list of what we've already got to do, and as from a public safety standpoint, I look at what's on the list of the pre-disaster mitigation plan. We're looking at emergency power at a number of key sources. When I look at the loan payments we're going to have for the next 10 years for what we've got, I'm wondering if 5 years from now, if that council wouldn't be better suited to be applying for this type of grant. I think if this is only good for 5 years, we may be able to very accurately determine what we need in 5 years. Now, the appeal that I hear in this, so I'm probably talking out of both sides of my mouth here, is the funding sources for the various projects. If it provides that, then that's...
But we had those, and we haven't been able to do it.
Yeah,
and the big grant we've already got, we're already applying for. We've already got engineers that have gotten us to a point to help apply for the reconstruction of that. I think our estimated amount is about $500,000, the city's contribution with that grant to replace the Minnetonka Bridge. We have received a grant for the schools, the streets around the school, which I hope we continue to prioritize. So there was a grant for that, but we couldn't meet our matching requirement.
I have a question. Where would that put us percentage-wise if we were to proceed with this?
For our remaining contingency balance?
Yes.
46% of $75,000.
15,000 is 45% of 75?
You've already approved other, well, and I guess we take out the 37, because when I did that calculation, I approved 37, but you did 10,000 for the mining attorney and then the housing study, which we approved already and didn't pay for. So that's 13,750 plus this 15,000 out of your 75,000 approved contingency.
And it says back here, and just in my way of looking at it, and it says introduction, GOED, and it goes down to, and do not currently have a 5-year capital improvement plan in place, or their existing plan is older than 4 years old. What would that what do we have?
We don't have one, and our comprehensive plan doesn't really, you remember passing it. It doesn't
say
have
anything,
detail.
really.
Say again?
We don't have CIP and our comprehensive plan, which she said it ties in with our comprehensive plan and help us move forward on that. Ours doesn't have any detail in it.
Oh, that's what I thought. We didn't have anything like that, so. Anyway, just my thoughts, or observation.
We have airport improvement plan. We're working on a water plan. We have a parks plan. We have golf course improvement plan.
We have an airport plan.
Yeah, airport plan.
So in Public Works, we've been kicking around how we're going to pay for an emergency repair to a water main. That right now there are 3 fire hydrants that aren't working for us. So, what else are we missing out there in our infrastructure? 5 years down the road, could another council apply for it? Absolutely. Is there going to be grant money, or are they going to pay for the whole thing at that time? I don't see this as a 5-year plan. I see this as identifying, our infrastructure needs right now. Whether we're able to start chopping off and doing work in 1 year or 2 year, the plan is still there. The needs are still identified. It's something that can be used. But again, I put it in front of you because it is an opportunity that will pass us by next Wednesday.
Applying for it doesn't mean you're going to get it. So, you have to look at it that way as well. But we need to do whatever we can do to take care of our infrastructure. And I think this is just a small first step that we need to take.
All right, any other comments, questions?
I guess just same old question I got. Where would we get the 15,000 from?
The contingency.
From the contingency?
That's what the recommendation is for.
I guess I have a question. This engineer that they're gonna hire to do this for us, how's he gonna know what our infrastructure's like underground? Is Tracy gonna have to tell him, or, I mean, is he gonna go like open all the hydrants? What's he gonna do to tell us what we need?
The specifics, Greg, I don't have an answer for, other than yes. Working with Tracy, talking with our department heads. The one thing that Andrea didn't mention in the webinar that's done for this, they're looking to spend about 4 to 6 months in each community, taking a look at what our needs are, what our infrastructure is. So at that point, it would be our opportunity to tell them everything we know about the infrastructure.
Public Works knows whatever we're told by our people, Tracy and those guys, and we come up with the money to fix that problem with the hydrants and stuff. So if our guys don't know anything other than what they tell us, how are they gonna tell him anything other than what they tell us?
Did you follow that?
Any other comments? All right, Ms. Tu, would you call the roll, please?
Linda Varvel,
No.
Craig Romy,
No.
Larry Pratt,
No.
Melanie Wilson,
Yes.
Deborah Johnston,
Yes, I'm torn.
Yep.
I'm gonna say no.
Bill Lukens,
No.
J.R. Huddleston,
Yes.
David Burris.
No.
Motion
And it's
fails
not that I just,
So the motion fails.
6-2.
Okay? Let's move on to new business item G. Possible motion and discussion to approve and publish 2 times.
I make a motion to approve and publish 2 times the notice to bidders for the 2023-1 water improvement project.
Second.
Discussion.
This is one reason why I said no on the last one, because we need that 15,000 to pay for this one. So this is an emergency thing for the safety of an entire neighborhood, so we really can't be putting this one off any longer than possible.
So this is the one that I was talking earlier about, that there are 3 fire hydrants that literally have no flow because of a main that's been constricted over the years.
And it's a safety thing now,
Yep.
really bad.
Yep.
And this is the notice to the bidders.
and I don't know how many of us were all here, but at one time, we had quite a few that were blacked out. By keeping our fire protection, not only for the safety of our community and our citizens, but it also, taking care of this also gives us a good rating with the insurance company, which last time we got everything worked on, everything was fixed, we got a discount. So, I mean, we are all considering money as we make these decisions. That is something that I just want to throw out there again. You don't really want to lose that rating with the insurance company. it would be something that, as much as I don't really want to spend too much right now in the position that we're in, this would be something that I would have to say, our crews, the council at that time, worked very hard to get this done so we could be in the best position we could with the discount and the safety. This would be something to me that if we don't take care of, we're going backwards again.
Any other questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Brings us to our committee reports. First one, Admin Finance, JR and Melanie.
Admin Finance met today at 1 o'clock at the Mueller Center. Present were Mayor Bob Nelson, Finance Officer Misty Summers Walden, Jeff Temple, Melanie Wilson, Deb Johnston, and J.R. Huddleston Share. Old business, additional costs related to water and wastewater replacement road project, ongoing review and discussion necessary. We discussed interfund loans, grants, and discussed business owners replacing their lines from the curb stop as they need to take action sooner than later. That was addressed. I didn't put it in here, but it was addressed because of cost effective. Number 2, gauge installation at City Shop, that's complete. Number 3, clothing allowance policy, PD, utilities, and maintenance. Jeff and I are working on the policy, and we're looking at what is considered expendable, non-expendable, what items are to be considered PPE items versus clothing, and we're going to get OSHA guidelines. Item 4, discuss selling the land the city owns adjacent to the Simon Quarry Cemetery, Hot Springs Canyon Pumping Station. 18 acres landlocked Simon Quarry, plus 7 acres north of Hayden's, and over 100 acres behind the pump station. Discussed our options. Committee recommends a personal review of the council of said property by council to determine what actions that may need to be required. New business, review monthly finance reports that was presented at the last council meeting. Small claims, Holt Homes, there's no update. State Highway Fund loan application update. Misty received the draft documents and attachments, more to come by the next meeting. Potential to pursue water, wastewater revenue bonds, discussed interfund loan. Departmental year-end purchase review. These reviews have been done through the department heads. Review wastewater fund prevention letter and response from finance officer. The letter was from Wells Fargo. The committee recommends we stay our course. Review vacation sick leave benefits for Southern Hills Golf Course Superintendent, Operations Manager, and Equipment Manager. Robust discussion. Further discussions are required, no action taken. MOU, Hot Springs Youth Baseball, additional information is required, no action at this time. Committee member items, there are no committee member items. Meeting adjourned 3:25. Next meeting, February 6, 1 p.m., Mueller Center.
Melanie, anything you'd like to add?
I do not.
Council, any questions? Thank you, folks. Airport Advisory, Bill?
Okay, Airport Advisory met Thursday, January 5th, 8:30 a.m. at the airport. Members present were Shane Miller, Mark Beck, Boxbaum, Petra Wilson, Gary Telkamp, and Gary is here at the meeting tonight. Gary, you want to wave at the council? Welcome to the committee. I just want to say that we've had almost 100% turnover. Shane Miller is probably the only committee member since I've been on council that's still on Airport Advisory, and we have I think a very experienced and a very professional Airport Advisory Committee, so I just want to thank each and every one of them for being on there. Elected officials at the meeting were myself and Mayor Nelson. Employees present were Rick Breitenbach and Tracy Bastian. Members of the public present were Charlie Baker from KLJ Engineering and John Anderson from Southern Hills Aviation. Under communications from the public, a tenant from in the old hangar had requested that the rent increase that the council just passed be increased over 2 years instead of making the increase in 1 year. The issue was discussed and the rate history will be reviewed and communicated to the tenant, but no action is expected at this time. Under airport manager update, under the T hangar, KLJ has reviewed and approved the alternate foundation design, and it's waiting for High Country Erector's signature before it can submit that design to the FAA. December fuel sales, 347 gallons aviation gas were sold. Total fuel sales for 2022 was just a little over 15,000 gallons. Monthly flight operations, we had 21 flight operations, and that included turboprops, medevacs, and a couple of helicopter flights. We had 1 balloon launch and no landings.
It's still out there.
Still out there.
Floating around. Boy.
That's kind of the high point of the report. So.
They brought a picnic basket.
Under hangar utilization, both the old city hangar and the new hangar are both 100% rented out. No old business. Under new business, the door repairs for the new city hangar are complete and the door is operating properly. Our next issue on that door is the battery backup those batteries need to be replaced with proper deep cycle batteries. We took a look at some verbiage that we want to update the committee charter with. We also discussed some various issues associated with private hangars and land lease rates. And we also discussed the possibility of having a fly-in golf event, and Rick will be contacting PJ Wetzel to see if that can be put together. Our next meeting will be Thursday, February 2nd, 8:30 a.m. at the airport. Meeting adjourned at 9:58 a.m.
Are they going to use golf carts to transport people to and from the airport to the golf carts?
Absolutely not.
Yellow truck.
Any other questions for Bill? Thank you. Custer Fall River Regional Waste Management. Larry?
Yeah, your name's on it, Larry.
Oh, I updated my stuff to Craig. I'm sorry, I got all the other ones updated.
Well, he's got to do it then, doesn't he?
You don't have to do it anymore. You can.
Thanks a lot, Misty.
Meeting was called to order on January 12th at 7 a.m. Roll call, there was 9 of us there, 2 absent. Approved the agenda, approved the minutes. Replaced the board member Larry Pratt, City of Hot Springs. Treasurer's report. Expenses paid, outstanding expenses and transfers, $39,605.36. Heard the manager's report, Carrie Parker, I like Baker. They have 2 PC equipment out there, a loader, they had to buy 2 new tires for, and a compactor, and they got 2 years left on their lease, so they're talking about whether to keep them or buy new ones. The engineer said he's going to do a strategic plan in March, have it done by March for the whole thing. Biannual audit cost us $6,500 this year. The gentleman isn't going to do any more, so they're trying to find an auditor that'll take over. Final budget was approved. The fuel quote was approved by Hideaway, and at $3.39 per gallon. And our next meeting's March 9th, but I will be giving this to Misty. This is what they give me at every meeting, so if anybody wants to go through this, it'll be at City Hall.
And we can add them to the website under the committee meetings for the.
Every 2 weeks you'll be getting one of these.
Thank you.
No problem.
I used to do that, Misty.
Our next meeting's March 9th, so Larry might have to take that because that's my birthday.
Oh, you don't want to go to a meeting on your birthday?
Any questions for Craig?
You get $47, Larry.
I know.
Thank you. Historic Preservation, Deborah?
Historic Preservation met January 4th. There was not a quorum, so I don't have any official minutes, but there was discussion. I'll try to muddle through my notes from, there was an update by Sarah Beckham with her window project, trying to dress up the windows of the sandstones that are vacant at the 609, 611 Bodega building. There's a plan in place for placeholders with window decor, and there's 2 of the 4 display cases are built. The person making them has had some other commitments, so that's what's detaining that project. And she's waiting on the owner to approve the clings and replacement clings for the upper windows. At the 243 North River Street, which is just to the right of City Hall, Mr. Johnson has finally approved the new mock-up for the upper windows. She has a design to put, it's kind of a mural that will be cut up and placed in all of the separate 6 or 8 windows that are up there. So that's been approved by him, and she's still looking for an artist to paint the panels. And then at 145 Chicago, she has placeholders for these windows as well. The plan to cover the large window on the right with privacy window clings, and then also cover the window with items for sale with the privacy clings, but then but have not gotten approval from the owner at that point, and the owner may have some other plans for the building, and I don't know what those are. And then until the weather warms and with what she can afford, this is the most efficient fix for now. She does not want to use her grant funds for window decor until she can get enough to pay or commission a painter for those, that mural for 243. And then there was further discussion from our visit from the South Dakota Historic Society, getting together volunteer time to be utilized in kind for grants and such. I do want to put out there that we really need more people involved to come to these meetings. The business owners and people who own these buildings in our historic district would behoove you to become involved with being part of this commission. We will be having elections next month, and Mr. Wienia will not be accepting the president position, so we do need some more active members to become part of this commission. So please come. February 1st at 5 p.m. It's a Wednesday here at the Mueller Center. Thank you.
Any questions for Deborah?
Yeah, I have a question. Down there at the Bearing Building, the sign that's been placed up there by the siding people, is that permanent or is it just hanging there?
I'll have to see. They did come through.
Since it's part of the historical district, I was wondering if that did that get approved for that
They
reason?
did come
or
through. I
did
have to go by and see if that's what they actually brought to us, but
Okay, just wondering.
there was one on both sides of that corner
Right.
that was approved, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
Is Steve still going to be on the commission? He just doesn't want to be president or
He
the
just
chair?
doesn't want to be president. He doesn't want to chair.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Evans Plunge Advisory, Linda?
Okay, the Evans Plunge Advisory Committee met on January 12th at noon at the Plunge. Present were myself, Chris Hansen, Dennis Fisher, Mara Smith, Okoye Zimiga joined us late. Jeff Temple was there as well. Absent was Tom Nas, Allison Ritterbusch, and Barry McNair. Updates: an incident took place early January 9th between two adult members. Local police responded, report taken, no injuries, no damages. She's looking at purchasing equipment replacement, also in the process of replacing a popcorn machine that she had to send the first one back and get a replacement. Continued increase in membership. We still have staffing concerns. The dates of our annual closure for deep cleaning and maintenance issues will be March 6th through 19th of 2023. New committee membership brainstorming, currently making changes to the current programming, but a suggestion was made to ask a chamber member to join. Review of monthly incidents. No new incidents occurred since December meeting. Looking at hiring 2 new lifeguards. Other issues, roof, patching versus replacement. Roof over the cardio and weight room leaking is a separate issue. Discussed council disapproval of bonuses again, maybe next year. Need to approach admin and finance to get approval. Discuss the sidewalk and street repair. Jeff will talk to Simons about it. The next meeting will be February 9th, 2023, noon at the Evans Plunge Mineral Springs. Adjournment was at 12:34 p.m.
Are you talking about those small strips in the sidewalk in front of the door that are broke up? No.
No.
What sidewalk repair?
The sidewalk repair going to the front door, several years ago it was patched where it had holes. Now the patching is coming apart.
That's what she's talking about.
Right? Yeah.
Those are the handicap
Alongside the
strips.
strips.
Alongside the strips.
Right.
There's a work order in on that.
So internally.
The
city
internal,
guys.
you
Okay.
mentioned Simons, that was not correct, it's actually internal,
That's
just so
what I
you
was
know.
wondering.
Oh, you're going to do it?
We'll do it
Well, I
ourselves.
meant when discussing the street repair is what she was hoping
It's
for.
not- The street repair is not going that far, and the other one is, anyway. Anyway, we are looking at it in-house, see if we can correct it.
Okay.
Any other questions for Linda? Thank you. Parks Recreation, Larry?
The Parks and Recreation Committee meeting was Wednesday, January 4th at 2:05. The meeting started. In attendance were Bart, Lori, Jeff, myself, and Chris Katke. In the public were Barb, Gerald, Hal Glanville, representatives from Pickleball, and Alderwoman Johnson. On the cemetery update, the new mower is in, working on cemetery projects. On the rec update, looking for a new rec director. On the parks update, fixing picnic tables, taking down Christmas decorations, and removing snow from park sidewalks. Waiting for a date to start installation of new playground. On new business, the resignation of the rec director, Kathy, has resigned, looking for a new director. The 2023 baseball season with the Hot Springs Youth Baseball Association, a recommendation to contract out with the HSYBA for the 2023 season. That's what you got right here, right, Jeff?
Yes.
For consideration only. The pickleball group came to the meeting to discuss ideals for pickleball. We'll work with Jeff. Ideals are to fix courts and find grant monies. Also, members will volunteer time to do improvements. Recommendation is to prioritize pickleball due to its potential. We'll also coordinate with Chris Katke at the Mueller Center. In old business, still working on unfunded list. In public comment, the idea was to play skating rink at Butler Park. And I think we visited this before, recommendation to reuse lights from street projects to parks. The meeting adjourned at 3:10. Next meeting will be February 1st, 2 p.m. at the Mueller Center. Public is invited.
Any questions for Larry?
I don't have a question for Larry, but I have a comment on dog park. I talked to Eldon and Skip, and Skip said he does not want his name on any sign. So I told Larry, and Skip also gave the city a compliment saying that that's one of the nicest parks he's ever seen. And he gave kudos to Dave Burris because it was one of Dave's standing up for him to do that part. So I just wanted everybody to know that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Planning and zoning, Deborah?
Planning and zoning meets tomorrow evening, the 18th, Wednesday at City Hall, 6 PM.
Thank you. Public safety, Bill, JR?
Okay, Public Safety met Thursday, January 5th, 2 PM here at the Mueller Center. Members present were myself, JR, Deborah, Mayor Nelson, Chief Norton, Jeff, and Frank Maynard, Fall River Emergency Manager. There were no communications from the public. Under the Police Department update, we reviewed the call data. In December, the Police Department responded to 327 calls, 30 of which were considered high risk. As a 2022 summary, the department responded to 5,899 calls. 623, or 10.56%, were considered high risk. And as far as total call volume, that's up from about 5,600 in 2021. During the personnel actions, Chief Norton gave you an update on the hiring of the last officer and the training, or his plans to send both the current uncertified officer and this new one to the academy. And he also gave you an update on the new vehicle and the still uncertain status of the 2016 Charger. Under old business, ICS 402 training. Okay, council and Ariel, put on your calendars Thursday, February 28th, 8:30 a.m. till noon. We will have Zoom training for this ICS 402 training. There'll be more information coming out. You'll need to individually register, but we'll be meeting in the annex here at the Mueller Center. The reason this is important is if we have a major incident go down in the city and any of us are involved, if there's FEMA funding available, the players need to be trained in incident command system training. So unless you've gone through and done all the training modules yourself, like Misty has, or some of us
I was
have.
gonna ask, do they recommend you go again if you have the?
No, if you've gone through it, you're good, but the finance people are very, very important, and Jeff, if you haven't gone through it, we'll want your smiling
I'll do
face
it again.
there.
Yeah, I'll do it again.
You said it was February 28th?
February 28th, 8:30 until noon here at the Mueller Center Annex. And we'll get an email out to you. There'll be an online link to where you can individually register.
He said though, you can all go together to watch it, or you can individually register and do it from your private location.
Yeah, more than likely. It'd be a lot more fun to come here, so. Okay, there was no update on the house number project or the fuels reduction grant. Traffic sign update, there will be a stop sign installed at the alley between the Brookside and Vision Source. There will also be temporary no parking signs installed on the east side of that alley during the road construction project. Since that alley is really a two-way street during construction and there's parking on the west side of the alley, it won't accommodate parking on both sides. Our speed camera project, the state's attorney has checked with the state's Attorney General office, and based on previous legal issues that came out of Sioux Falls, it's recommended we do not pursue the ticketing portion of this project. So that part is dead. Under new business, we had a A resident that lives on Coldbrook Street contacts City Hall because they had difficulty getting packages delivered because our street sign says it's Coldbrook Avenue. And we had a wonderful discussion. And it really worked out well. So the committee recommends correcting the signs and establishing an East Coldbrook Street and a West Coldbrook Street, and then notify the county to make those changes on the GIS maps, and then make every effort to get Google to change their maps. By the way, the alley that I've just been referring to, Google considers that Baltimore Avenue.
And those signs have been ordered.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. There was also a request for a no parking zone to be about 80 feet long across from 2516 and 2518 Washington Street due to safety concerns. The committee recognizes this as a safety issue and concurs with the no parking zone.
Where did you say that was? I'm sorry. Washington.
Across from 2516 and 2518 Washington Street.
It's right at a Y,
It'd be Avenue.
Yes.
and it's 80 feet, right?
Yes.
Roughly 80 feet, yes.
No parking zone?
It's east to west, that's an avenue.
And part of that is gravel, right?
Yes.
Yep.
City administrator discussed the thermal boot policy, that this would be city mandated, city purchased safety equipment. The committee concurs with that. And we also looked at some new words to be put in our charter that would potentially align with some comprehensive plan words. And at that, the meeting adjourned at 3:40 p.m. And our next meeting will be the first Tuesday in February at 2 p.m.
First
I
Thursday.
think it's the
First
second.
Thursday, sorry.
That'd be February 9th, 2 p.m.
Thank you, JR.
You're welcome.
The first Thursday is the second,
Yes.
isn't it?
No, always the first Thursday.
Yes.
Oh, wait, it's a second.
It's the second.
My bad.
You were just trying to throw them up.
Make sure we're paying
February
attention.
2nd is the first Thursday.
And if I
What-
would have gone the 9th,
What is a thermal boot? I mean, like boot for your feet?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
And the thermal boots will be owned by the city, they're not,
Correct.
Okay, and this is for the police department, I take
No,
it?
or every department.
Mostly for the
Oh.
streets and water department.
Okay,
Cold water.
yeah, that would be nice.
And the reason that the public safety concurs with it is, and you mentioned OSHA, what personal protective equipment they mandate. There is certain personal protective equipment that OSHA mandates, but they essentially say you need to do a risk assessment. And if there's a risk, then that's the personal protective equipment that an employer has to provide.
Okay,
And so, given the cold weather, the wet environment that we have, those are identified risks. So therefore, waterproof thermal boots that would protect a worker from frostbite and from
Okay.
cold, wet environment would be an appropriate PPE for an employer to provide. So if you were in private industry, that would certainly be a personal protective equipment that OSHA would require an employer to provide.
okay.
So as many as we have to buy, is there any way we could get a hold of a company and see if we could get like a discount if we have to buy?
Military, Mickey Mouse boots.
Oh, those are great boots. I have a pair of those. Your feet don't get cold with those.
I don't.
But that's what we gotta do, go surplus and get those Mickey Mouse boots.
military grade.
I tell you, your feet do not get cold.
Yep.
JR, anything you'd like to add?
Nope, that's good.
Any
I
other
got
questions?
one thing, yeah. Did you get how many people have had a chance to see your program you have at the library? You showed me when I first came on unit.
Several that wanted to.
I didn't catch the question.
The emergency coordination resources we have at the library.
Right.
He was asking how many of us have seen that.
Thank you.
So I do have a question when it comes to the ICS training, because it's been suggested that we implement train the trainer, because the finance officer has done the training.
I can't train the trainer, though. This has to be,
No, you're the trainer, so could you?
no, you should attend this virtual free Zoom training.
It was a poor attempt at humor.
We can't come down City Hall and watch it and
You can, or you can come to the Mueller Center and watch
on
it.
your computer and you can tell us what. No?
Thank you. Public Works, Dave, Craig?
Last meeting was January 10th at 1 p.m. here at the Mueller Center. Those in attendance were Mayor Bob Nelson, Tracy Bastian, Craig Romey, Billy Marl, myself, and Deb Johnson. We discussed on new business, alley behind Ace Hardware and behind Yesway also. That four-way intersection, we've got to figure out a way to get that water to move. Our city crew has gone through there, and actually that very day of the meeting, really had them go through with the blade and try to lay a path for the water at least to move, so it moves out. And we are looking into other things. We're going to basically play with it, with a lack of a better way of saying it, to find the best solution for that. Because we have a downhill behind Ace Hardware, and it's a four-way intersection. We need somehow to make that water move. So we're going to be playing around with that to see what we can do on that. We discussed a water bill adjustment, and we are just waiting for some info. Street maintenance, we all heard about the discussion for 2023 pile burn. The only other thing I'd add to that what we discussed earlier, and I've already talked to the supervisor for the crew, we will be getting together for a short impromptu meeting and go through all the process all over again, just to refresh everybody, and discuss the new implementation of the signage, sign-offs. Move on down. Summit Road, the wall there, we are trying to get some good ideas and designs, also with cost is a major factor, to come up with an idea to keep people from climbing through the rocks. We have multiple times I've seen young children trying to get up and climb through there, which, like a jungle gym, but we don't want anybody to get hurt, so we're trying to come up with a way of keeping them away. Because you can get up there in those rocks, and if something rolls out as you're stepping on it, somebody's gonna get hurt. It's not really if it'll happen, it's just when it does. So we're trying to be a little more proactive on that. Going down, repairs on the stairs next to the fire station prior to June 2023. Talking to the maintenance, city maintenance, they're going to start, they should have it done before March is what they're figuring. Weather and manpower throughout this list that I'll be discussing comes down to what we have available to us, because our crew is pretty much spread thin. irrigation around the depot, North River Street along Centennial Park and across from Lynn's Dakota Mart. We're looking into costs on that and getting more information on that. Sewer in the alley between 3rd and 4th Streets.
It's my understanding it's been paid.
Has it? Did it? Okay. Well, that shortened that up. Let's see. Reuse of city streetlights. We're getting some information, and I pass it on with the city council. We have quite a few. We discussed the city, what we need, what we would like to store, and go through all that process. But if anybody on the council or anybody of any of the crews that work for the city have ideas of where a street light or reuse of the small lights in the parks, come up with ideas that would actually benefit everybody, and come up with ideas. Well, Billy got an idea on storage, which we're looking into that. And then would we have an overabundance of excess, and how would we, the process of either selling them or putting them up, you know, everything that we have, we just don't give away or sell privately, has to go up for an auction. But to the council, if you have ideas of where one might be for safety, for enhancement of the community, please give them to me, and we'll add them to everything else. The rest of the information we'll get on that, and that is going to be a process. Going into utilities, fire hydrant pressures on Edgewood. I have not talked to Tracy anymore, so I didn't get the latest of information. Do you know anything, Craig, on that one?
No.
We just agreed to put out we just agreed to do what we did tonight on that.
Yeah, but
The hydrant, yeah.
yeah. But other than that, that's all I got on that one. That's on me. Nuisance properties, I guess for the year, now correct me, Jeff, if I am wrong on this, but we had 29 that are pretty much done with, right, for this year?
I believe that's the number, yes.
Okay. And we will be discussing more on that particular subject as we go on.
Yes.
Well, old business, wayfinding signs, we discussed that a little bit earlier in the evening, so that kind of killed that. And we were talking about possible sale or lease to Simons, and that is kind of in a progress, putting things together and seeing where everybody's feelings are on that. And that's pretty much it. Craig, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I got a couple things. I had coffee with Andrea Powers the other day, and this streetlight thing came up, and she came up with a good suggestion. She said there's a lot of people talking about those, kind of like what the city can do with them. And I told her, you know, what we was planning on doing, you know, putting some down on the Freedom Trail that way. She says we had to put something in the paper so people know what we plan on doing with some of them. And as far as I know, those things cost $8,000 a piece, the city.
They're very expensive.
So I don't think we ought to just give them away.
We're not.
You know, I think we ought to probably keep as many as possible, because we're talking about maybe putting them out on the Freedom Trail going to Chautauqua Park and stuff, because eventually that's going to get, you know, put in with the city, and we could change them into solar powered instead of having to run power. So, and we talked about putting some up at Butler Park and stuff like that. So I think that we just need to hold on to them for as long as possible until we know for sure what we want to keep and stuff. So I agree with Dave. You know, if anybody has any ideas and stuff, you know, tell us about it.
Something came to me just the other day about lighting up our staircases.
Yeah.
We don't have any lights.
That'd be
on the
hard,
stairs.
hard to put solar powered up there because they're all covered with trees.
I liked to hear solar though, because I would remind you that the city spends in excess of $330,000 a year in electricity already.
Well, and I still want to go with that ideal that I talked about way back, Mayor, is take some of those flagpoles, and then when we have Veterans Day or things associated with it, put those lights up there because they're high enough for these young kids or whoever the vandals were that took the other flags down, so that we can have families in town that have flags from their deceased members hang their flags up for that day. I think because we're a veterans town, I would personally like to see something like that happen with those lights on the Freedom Trail, or at least where it's visible so that those can be kept an eye on. But that's my thoughts.
And that's a wonderful idea. And please, everybody, even though you might think, well, that's just my thought process, please put it on paper, give it to us, and we can see where we can use these. But yes, I don't really think that getting rid of them would benefit us all that much. But then again, we have to be realistic, and do we have areas that we can permanently put them for storage? And that I'm going to leave up to the supervisors, and they'll get back to it.
I have one more thing I want to bring up. That Fall River cleanup, we made a decision to buy 4 of those underwater weed eaters, I call them. I don't know what they are. You know, and I got to thinking the city, because we talked about the baseball, those people doing the work up at the fields and stuff using city equipment. And this city equipment, when they wanted to have a dump truck down there, we wouldn't let them run it because the city don't let people use their equipment. But now we got 2 organizations that we're saying, yeah, you can use city equipment, but other people that want to use it, we've told them no in the past. So, you know, and I know we want the river cleaned up and they're doing a great job, but I just have a problem now with the people in the baseball field can use all the equipment the city has in this, and we don't let other people use our city equipment. I mean, either we do or we don't, in my opinion. So, that's all I got.
A different note, Ariel mentioned that those used to work at the mobile food vending park at the smoke shop, and there is a geocache location on that hill. I'm not sure who puts those out there or how you can maybe exclude that area, but that might be why you see kids climbing on those rocks all the time.
There's a lot of geocaching around.
Yeah.
My son and daughter-in-law does that. It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
It's just good info to know as you're trying to control that behavior.
That, you know, and I did not know that, so that is great information. And my biggest concern is you get so many climbing up there, those rocks are going to get loose. So it is going to happen. Like I said, it's not if, it's going to be when.
Yeah, we
And
talked
may-
about a sign, didn't
And
we?
maybe we
We
ought
put
to,
signs on it, but that
Not
doesn't,
climb on rocks.
I don't know how to stop this geocache thing. I'm not familiar with it. I know what it is, but
well, they'd have to take it off, isn't on the, it's on a website? Because you bring up all the geocachings in Hot Springs and I'll show it. What we need to do is whoever did it, take it down so people won't crawl up on that.
Yeah,
Well, that's the only I can think of.
I can tell you with a sign, if somebody climbs on it and we have a sign that says don't, and they fall down, we have no liability. They're required.
You know, and there is signs saying do not climb on the hill, so people's going up there for geocaching, you know, they ain't supposed to be.
But unfortunately, in today's, nowadays times, I guess, there are folks that they'll press it though, and the city will end up spending money over it. Whether or not it would ever come to a settlement, I'm just saying we still have to go through the process. It costs us in hourly wages and so on and so forth. So to me, if somebody is actually, whatever this geocache is, I don't know, I have no clue what that is, but you are creating a public safety and you are going to get somebody hurt.
All right, any other questions for Craig or Dave?
Oh, one more thing. January 31st will be our next meeting, 1 p.m. here at the Mueller Center. Thank you.
Just a couple comments. David commented on Simon, and I'm going to remember to remove that from Public Works agenda. Okay. We're following that through admin finance, and that's really the place that it needs to be. I agree. Public Works, your focus is other than whether we should sell property or not. Exactly. We'll get that one removed. And then the lights, Larry's comment about, what the lights, they should go along the Freedom Trail for a particular reason. Previous councils have been in agreement that the excess lights need to be on the Freedom Trail. So that is consistent from council to council that that's where they believe the majority of the lights need to go. So.
And that will make weight for make a decision.
All right, so then we're on to Golf Course Advisory and City Administrator. Jeff?
So Golf Course Advisory will start meeting again in March. I don't have the date in front of me, but nothing to report at this point. We're just starting to get geared up, at least mentally. On the City Administrator side, just to clarify a couple of things that have come up in staff and council reports, we are doing a full count of all of the potential light positions, the trail, anything else that staff is recommending to present to the Public Works Committee so that you know what we're looking at in terms of how many we're recommending we use. So they'll have a final count from us, hopefully by tomorrow, I would hope. The golf fly-in is now scheduled for Mother's Day, the one you talked about, Bill. That's on the schedule for Mother's Day. That's an interesting program idea. Golf fly-in, yeah. The rec director position will be on the street tomorrow. We are going back to the summer recreation program to focus more on quality for that 6-month period, vice having to come back and ask for more hours later in the year. We're advertising it for an approximate 800 hours, but the council we've budgeted 1,200 hours for the year. We're going to try and do it in 800 hours for the summer, May through September. That'll be out tomorrow. We've been approved for the AmeriCorps team in phase 1, which just means that, okay, we don't have the approval for the team yet, but they've given us the approval to apply for the team, if that makes any sense at all. It's a federal program, so you got to go with the flow. Anyway, so that's good news. I mean, that's actually good news because that means that they're supportive of what we're doing, and if that's the case, then we'll have a team to work with the folks on the river in the May-June time frame, and be about eight folks, I believe. Next week is begins the Missoula Children's Theater here in the Mueller Center, and that's all I've got. So to your questions.
Sounds good to me.
Any questions for Jeff? Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Misty, Finance Officer report.
I have no finances to review with you. I did already discuss the not really good start we were off to with our contingency. We really need to focus on building things into our budget, determining our priorities, and sticking with those. I don't think I have to remind you, we added 2 new debts in 2022, $370,000 worth of debts, and this year we're adding 1.9 million and potentially another 1.5. You can do the math. We don't have any new income to pay those, so thank you for bringing that up in the conversation, Councilman Lukens, because we really do need to consider each one of our agenda items that require the use of funds that we didn't budget for with a lot of thought, because our financial responsibility just really can't be overstated. The other thing I wanted to just read through is the codified law that talks about why we do these committee reports and what we put in here and the process. We talked about it maybe at the beginning of this council serving, but recommendations, findings, and reports of appointed working groups to be reported in an open meeting, and then action by the governing body should occur at a following meeting. So when you're giving your committee reports, it's important that you hit on any recommendations that this council is going to see on a future agenda at the meeting before we determine the action. That's what the statute asks us to do. And it's really all about transparency, inclusion, and giving our public an opportunity to be involved in those kind of conversations for subjects that they're interested in. So as I go through and I try to highlight in the committee reports the things that you're talking about, I'm not going to include everything. I'm only going to include the items that may be of interest to somebody that can come to a next meeting and share their concerns or support about the topic that's being discussed. So just a reminder, that's why we have these committee reports, that's why we have these committee meetings, to make well thought out recommendations to the council and give the public an opportunity to know that that's something that we're going to be deliberating at a future meeting. It's 127 1.18 if anybody wanted to look up the statute. We are completed with our first week, started our second week of our legislative session. If you're getting the updates, you know there's some bad news from last week. There's some good news on some bills, and I just wanted to highlight a few. David Reese is the new executive director from the Municipal League and has actually provided 3 updates already, with just the first week being finished. They're hearing that they'll hear bills attacking pools from multiple angles, but nothing is introduced yet. A lot of legislators are considering different sales tax reductions, which they're calling destructions. And those are just in concept at this point, but those are things we should pay attention to because that talks about our ability to continue to repay all these things I was just talking about if there are reductions or destructions in sales tax that we use to count on to pay our bills. Some municipal league bills that will be introduced are regarding local government cybersecurity. We've heard a lot about that from our insurer and been discussing cybersecurity a lot. And the legislature looks like they're going to engage in maybe some bills regarding that. Workforce housing infrastructure funding cleanup, which Andrea gave us a really good update on. They're talking about the municipal bid limit increase, so supplies and equipment can increase to $50,000 from $25,000, in full support of that. There's a taxation bill. It's a House Bill 1043 that did pass on the 12th, the House Taxation and House Committee on Appropriations. And it's an act to make an exemption from certain property taxation for owner-occupied single-family dwellings, which provides an exemption of $100,000 of the full and true value of each owner-occupied single-family dwelling. I looked at the bill. I didn't see that's all it truly says. I don't know what the impact on municipalities and our levy for property taxes would be, but I could imagine if it did have an impact, that could be significant. $100,000 of value on each owner-occupied home. Now that hasn't passed. It did pass that committee, but the impact on municipalities would be interesting, and maybe there is none since our levy can be increased by last year's levy growth in CPI. But if there is an impact, it's important that we understand that and start to prepare for that. Those are the only ones that I'd highlight for us from those updates, but I would encourage you to review those and then also the website because his updates are just telling us things that he thinks we should watch out for, but there are a number of bills being presented this year that may impact us in our communities. So,
any questions for Misty? Thank you. We're getting late into the evening, so if we go any mayor's report, we still have an executive session on the agenda. So if I could get a motion to go into executive session.
Make a motion, we go into executive session in accordance with South Dakota Codified Law 1-25-2-3, legal.
Second, first, thank you.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes, and if Jeff, Misty, and Garland can join us, and there won't be any action taken after executive session, but there will be a short pause prior to executive session.
Mayor, can we have Ariel attend the session?
Yes. All right, so it looks like we're all back at 10:10. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion, we adjourn?
Second.
Second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Oy vey.
The motion passes. Have a good evening, everyone.
Yeah.
So we get Marty.